The morning light entered the Crossroads diner slowly, touched the tables. It warmed the counter, and it settled on Emma Martinez as she wiped the same spot twice without noticing. Emma had worked here for 3 years. She knew every sound, every regular, every quiet habit of the place. But this morning felt different. Something in the air felt tight, unsettled. 3 men sat in the corner booth. They did not laugh. They did not eat much. They watched the door more than their plates. Emma noticed small things. She always did. One man checked his phone again and again. Another kept his jacket closed even though the diner was warm. The third tapped his fingers softly on the table. Emma carried a coffee pot past them. She did not mean to listen, but she heard a whisper. The moment he orders black coffee, no sugar. Her steps slowed. That order was familiar, very familiar. Every Thursday morning at 9:30, the same man walked in. He sat at the counter. He greeted everyone kindly. He ordered black coffee with no sugar. His name was Colt Daniels. People whispered about him. They said he was powerful. They said he led a motorcycle club. They said many things. But to Emma, he was just polite, respectful, quiet. The low sound of motorcycles rolled through the windows. The glasses on the shelves trembled slightly. Emma looked outside. 5 bikes pulled into the parking lot. Her heart beat faster. The door opened. Colt Daniels stepped inside. He moved calmly, confidently, like a man who belonged wherever he stood. Some customers nodded at him. Others smiled. He nodded back. He sat at his usual place at the counter. Emma felt the weight of the moment press on her chest. She looked back at the corner booth. The 3 men were still, focused, waiting. Emma told herself to stay calm, to do her job, to keep her head down. But her hands felt cold. She walked toward the counter with the coffee pot. Her smile was steady. Her steps were careful. Good morning, Colt. Good morning, Emma. The usual. You know it. He started to speak. Time seemed to slow. Emma leaned in to pour the coffee. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Do not talk. Colt stopped. His hand paused in the air. He looked at her closely. Not angry. Not confused. Alert. She held his gaze for a brief moment. He nodded once. You know what? He spoke calmly. I think I will just take the coffee for now. Let me look at the menu. Across the diner, confusion passed through the corner booth. The moment they were waiting for never came. Emma stepped back slowly. Her legs felt weak. She returned to her work. But her hands were shaking. Colt lifted his cup. He took a slow sip. He watched the room without turning his head. The 3 men stood up a few minutes later. They left money on the table and walked out quickly. One of them looked back at Emma. She felt a chill run through her. The diner slowly returned to normal. Conversations picked up. Plates clinked again. But nothing was truly normal anymore. Emma knew it. Colt knew it. 2 words had changed everything. Do not talk. And a quiet waitress had just stepped into a moment that would shape her life forever. The diner grew quieter as the morning passed. Plates were cleared. Coffee cups were refilled. But something unseen remained between Emma and the man at the counter. Colt Daniels did not leave right away. He sat still. He observed. Emma tried to focus on her work. She wiped tables. She stacked menus. But she could feel his attention. Not heavy. Not uncomfortable. Curious. When the last customer stepped outside, the bell above the door rang softly. The sound echoed longer than usual. Emma turned toward the counter. Colt was still there. Emma. His voice was calm. Can you come here for a moment? She paused, then walked over. Yes. She stood beside him. Her hands were folded in front of her. He looked at her with quiet focus. You told me not to talk. Yes. She hesitated. Because I heard something that felt wrong. He waited. She continued. 3 men in the corner booth. They were watching you. They were waiting for something specific. What were they waiting for? Your order. Black coffee. No sugar. Colt nodded slowly. That is my usual. I know. How did you know it mattered? Emma took a breath. They said it quietly. like it was a signal. Colt rested his hands on the counter. Why help me? She looked up at him. Because it was not right. Because you did nothing wrong. Because someone had to speak. For a moment, neither of them said anything. Then Colt smiled. Not wide. Not forced. Real. You have good instincts. Emma felt her phone vibrate in her pocket. She checked it without thinking. Her face changed. Colt noticed. What is it? She turned the screen toward him. A short message. Unknown number. We know who you are. Emma felt her chest tighten. Colt read the message. His expression stayed steady. Thank you for showing me. She swallowed. I did not mean to get involved. I understand. But you did something important today. I just listened. That is not a small thing. Colt stood up slowly. I want you to know something. She listened. You did not overstep. You did not cause trouble. You acted with care. He paused. And I do not forget people who act with care. She felt a mix of relief and uncertainty. What happens now? He looked around the diner. Now we make sure you feel safe. She blinked. Safe. Yes. Because courage should never stand alone. The door opened. A man stepped inside and nodded at Colt. Colt nodded back. Emma. This is Ghost. Ghost smiled politely. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Colt turned back to Emma. You will not be alone after today. She did not fully understand what he meant. But she felt something change. Not fear. Not pride. Belonging. She looked around the diner. The place she had always felt invisible. Now she felt seen. Colt picked up his coffee cup. To good instincts. Emma lifted hers. To doing the right thing. They drank quietly. Outside, the road carried on as usual. Inside, a new chapter had begun. One built on respect. On listening. On the quiet strength of a voice that chose to speak when it mattered. The next morning felt unfamiliar to Emma. Not because the world had changed, but because she had. She stood near the window of a quiet room Colt had arranged for her. It was simple, clean, calm. She held a warm cup in both hands and watched the sunlight move across the floor. Her phone was silent now. That brought relief, but also questions. She heard a soft knock. Come in. Colt stepped inside. Not rushed. Not serious. Good morning, Emma. Good morning. Did you sleep? A little. That is enough for now. He took a seat across from her. I wanted to explain something. She nodded. Yesterday was not just about me. She listened carefully. Those men were not random. They were watching patterns. Routines. I never thought about that. Most people do not. He paused. You noticed what others missed. Emma looked down. I was just doing my job. You were doing more than that. She met his eyes. You were paying attention. That matters. There was a moment of silence. Emma spoke softly. I keep thinking about the diner. About how normal everything felt. Colt smiled. Normal is often where important things happen. She took a breath. What happens to me now? He answered without hesitation. You continue being yourself. She blinked. That is it. That is everything. He leaned forward. People think strength looks loud. It does not. Strength often looks like calm choices. Like listening. Like speaking at the right moment. Emma thought about her life before that morning. Working long hours. Being polite. Being overlooked. No one had ever asked her opinion before. Now people listened. Ghost appeared at the doorway. Everything is ready. Colt nodded. Thank you. Ghost turned to Emma. Breakfast is downstairs. Thank you. He left quietly. Emma stood up. Colt. Yes. I keep wondering something. What is that? Why trust me? He smiled gently. Because trust begins with character. And you showed yours. She felt warmth spread through her chest. They walked together toward the stairs. People nodded respectfully as they passed. Not because of fear, but because of recognition. Emma felt it. She was not invisible anymore. At breakfast, she sat among people who spoke kindly, who listened when she spoke, who treated her with care. Later that day, she returned briefly to the diner. Jake looked surprised. Emma, you are back. Just for a bit. The diner felt the same, but she did not. As she wiped the counter, a customer smiled at her. "Thank you for yesterday. You handled everything so well." Emma paused. "Thank you." She realized something then. Kindness creates echoes. Small choices ripple outward. She stepped outside and looked down the road. She did not know what the future held, but she knew who she was. Someone who paid attention. Someone who chose respect. Someone who spoke when it mattered. And that quiet strength would carry her forward, no matter where life took her next. The open field felt alive that evening. Rows of motorcycles stood neatly arranged. People gathered in calm groups. Laughter mixed with quiet conversations. Emma stood beside Colt. She wore simple clothes, nothing that made her stand out. Yet she felt steady. "You doing all right?" Colt spoke softly. "Yes, I am." He nodded. "Remember, just be yourself." She smiled. "That seems to be working." They walked forward together. People greeted Colt with respect. Some nodded at Emma, not because she was important, but because she belonged. As the evening went on, Emma noticed movement at the edges. Not threatening, just watchful. Colt noticed too. He leaned closer. "Stay calm." "I am." "That is good." A man approached from a distance. He stopped a few steps away. "Good evening." "Good evening." His voice was polite, measured. "You seem familiar." Emma met his eyes. "Maybe." Colt stepped slightly forward. "Is there something you need?" The man hesitated. "Just wanted to say hello." Colt nodded. "Then enjoy the evening." The man walked away. Emma exhaled slowly. "You handled that well." She nodded. "I learned from you." They moved toward a quieter area. Lights reflected softly off the metal around them. Emma spoke quietly. "I used to think strength was loud. Most people do. But it is not. It is calm. It is choosing patience. It is choosing respect." Emma watched people pass by. Different backgrounds. Different stories. All sharing the same space. Colt stopped near a table. "Let me tell you something." She listened. "This group. This community. It works because people look out for one another. Because no one is overlooked." Emma felt those words settle deeply. "I never felt seen before." Colt looked at her. "You were always seen. You just needed the right moment." They stood there for a moment. The sounds around them felt distant. Then Ghost approached. "Everything is settled." Colt nodded. "Good." Ghost turned to Emma. "You did well today." "Thank you." He smiled and walked away. Emma looked at Colt. "Is it always like this?" He smiled. "No. But it can be. If people choose it." They began walking back toward the crowd. Emma felt something new. Confidence. Not loud. Not demanding. Quiet. Earned. As the evening ended, Emma looked back at the field. She thought about the diner, the coffee pot, the two words she had whispered. One choice had led her here, not to power, but to purpose. And she knew this was only the beginning, a beginning built on trust, on dignity, on the quiet strength of doing what feels right. The diner felt warm again, familiar, comforting. Emma stood behind the counter, tying her apron the way she always had. But something inside her felt different. Not heavier, stronger. The morning crowd arrived slowly. Truck drivers, local workers, people passing through. They greeted her by name. "Good morning, Emma." "Morning." She smiled easily. Jake leaned over from the kitchen. "You seem lighter today." "Maybe I am." He nodded. "Good." Colt arrived later than usual. Not alone this time. He took his seat at the counter and waited. Just like before. Emma poured his coffee and placed it gently in front of him. Black coffee. No sugar. He smiled. "Thank you." He reached into his jacket and placed a small object on the counter between them. Emma looked at it. "What is this?" He slid it closer. A symbol of trust. She picked it up carefully. It was simple. Clean. "I do not understand." Colt spoke softly. "You stood up when it mattered. You paid attention when others did not." She looked at him. "I only did what felt right." "That is exactly why this matters." She held the object in her palm. "What does it mean?" It means you are not alone anymore. She felt emotion rise in her chest. Not fear, not pride, gratitude. Ghost entered the diner and took a seat nearby. Morning, Emma. Good morning. He smiled. You have made quite an impression. She laughed softly. I did not plan to. That is usually how the best things happen. The diner grew busy. Emma moved smoothly between tables. Confident, calm. She noticed something else. People treated each other with more patience, more kindness. It was small, but it mattered. Later, during a quiet moment, Emma stepped outside. The sun was higher now, bright. Colt joined her. You look thoughtful. I am. About what? About how one choice can change so much. He nodded. It always does. She looked at him. What if I make the wrong choice one day? He smiled gently. Then you learn. And you choose again. She breathed in the fresh air. I used to feel invisible. He met her gaze. You were never invisible. You were waiting to be seen. She smiled. Thank you for listening. Thank you for speaking. They stood there quietly. No rush, no pressure, just understanding. Emma returned inside and tied her apron once more. She was still a waitress, but she was also something more. Someone trusted, someone valued. And as the day continued, she realized something important. Respect grows when people choose kindness. Strength grows when people choose fairness. And real change begins when someone decides to speak softly, but clearly, at the right moment. The diner was quiet again. Late afternoon light rested softly on the counter. The rush had passed. Emma wiped the surface slowly, not because it needed cleaning, because she liked the moment. Colt sat across from her, relaxed, present. You have changed this place. She looked up. I did not mean to. You did it anyway. She smiled gently. I think the place changed me too. He nodded. That is how growth works. A customer approached the counter. Excuse me. Yes. I just wanted to say thank you. You always make people feel welcome here. Emma paused. Thank you for saying that. The customer left with a smile. Emma turned back to Colt. I never thought kindness could feel powerful. It always has been. People just forget. She leaned against the counter. I used to think being noticed meant being loud. He shook his head. Being noticed means being real. The door opened and closed as the day slowly ended. The diner settled into calm. Ghost stepped in briefly. Everything is in order. Good. He nodded to Emma. Take care. You too. He left. Emma watched the door for a moment. Then she spoke. Do you ever miss a simpler life? Colt considered the question. Simple is not about where you are. It is about how you live. She thought about her routine. The coffee, the counter, the conversations. This feels simple to me. Then you are exactly where you should be. They shared a quiet moment. No speeches, no promises, just understanding. Emma poured 2 cups of coffee. She placed one in front of Colt. Black coffee, no sugar. He smiled. Some things stay the same. She lifted her cup. To good instincts. He lifted his. To people who listen. They drank. Outside, the road continued. Cars passed. Life moved forward. Inside, something steady remained. Emma looked around the diner one last time before closing. She felt proud. Not because she was important, but because she mattered. She turned off the lights and locked the door. As she walked to her car, she realized something simple. Real strength does not demand attention. It shows up quietly, at the right moment, in the right place, and sometimes all it takes to change everything is the courage to say a few calm words when they matter most.